Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Sunset Safari, starting off with a bird with a crazy hairdo. The secretary bird, who seems to not really be enjoying the heat today, but it's got to do what it's got to do if it wants to fill its crop, even if that means looking for grasshoppers in the middle of the Mara heat. And that it is. It's very, very hot today. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me is Manu. And this is a live and interactive safari. Perhaps it's your first time and you've just stumbled across us. Welcome. You can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can also talk to us via the YouTube chat. Very exciting stuff, isn't it? Now, the secretary bird is a lot more exciting, though. It isn't just myself and the secretary bird and Manu out today. We've also got Archie and Ralph, and they're on the other car, and you'll say hello to them in a little bit. And then we'll be graced by the presence of Scott and Noel, all the way from South Africa, which is very cool. Now, we haven't been seeing too many of the secretary birds, not because I think they've gone anywhere, just because the grass is so long at the moment. At one point the grass was so short we could see the secretary birds everywhere. There were so many of them. They were like turtle doves in the Sabi sand. A lot prettier though. And they're my favorite bird. And if you joined us on the sunrise safari, you would have seen that we had a spectacular birding morning. And who knows, maybe this afternoon we'll have a spectacular one too. But there's also a bit of a breeze now. It's starting to pick up. You can see those head feathers are blowing around quite a bit. It's amazing what you can use as a windsock out here in the bush. It's incredible, just with a little bit of imagination. Now, Chat Noir, you're wondering, you've said that you love these birds. Me too. They are amazing to watch. Now, I've seen a heron catching a snake. It was during a rehearsal for Nat Geo. I'm still waiting for the secretary bird to catch a snake, but they haven't been catching any snakes. I've only ever seen them eating grasshoppers, yeah? But they eat a variety of different things, from rats and mice, and I'm sure gerbils and snakes and grasshoppers. Everything, really. What is it? Something in my shirt. Sorry, Manu, I feel like something is about to sting me. Look, I'm scared. I'm too scared. Should we just do the pat? Just hope that I kill it. Something, sorry everyone, that shaking of the camera is me jumping around the car. Something's about to sting me. I don't know what it is. Fluffy koala? You said this is your first safari and that you're very excited. Well, welcome. You've seen one of the most graceful birds now, but also one of the most ferocious predators out here. And like I was just saying, they're the killers of serpents. They've got exceptionally long legs with very tough scales. And they'll use those to stomp down on the snakes. But I don't know how many snakes we'd see here. Maybe a couple of grass snakes and things. It would be nice to see them catching them. Probably more in the marsh area, which is why I think we saw the heron catching it, because that's where it was trying its luck. What do you call when you go looking for snakes? Snaking? Fishing? You know? I don't know. Anyway, so they like to go snaking, and I used to see them catching puff adders and Cape cobras in the Eastern Cape, which was pretty epic. Right, now I would like to continue forward because we are heading towards the last area that leopard was seen in this morning. Whether we're going to see it or not, I'm not so certain, but we're going to go and give it a bash anyway and just check underneath a couple of those shrubs and see what else is going on. Everyone is always so devastated when I can't stop and chat to them. I do feel really bad, but it's just one of those things. Hey, just wave and smile. Right, we're going to make our way down towards the Mara River where those spots were last seen. Ralph has not got a cat just yet. He has found himself a buffalo.
Thank you, Taylor, and I haven't found one buffalo, but I've found a whole massive herd of buffalo here in the Masai Mara, in the Mara Triangle to be specific. Welcome aboard once more for the afternoon game drive. You are with Safari Live, and my name is Ralph Kirsten, and we've got Archie on the camera. How's it, Archie? Welcome, welcome, folks. And what we're looking out over here is a massive herd of buffalo moving across the plains. Now, please don't forget to join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. We'd love for you to get involved and send us your questions and your comments, and so that you can join the largest game drive in the world. This buffalo taking a little bit of interest in us, as have a few of them. Now, It's always the usual suspects, it seems, down here in the marsh, but it's quite a hot day. It's probably about 29 degrees, 30 degrees centigrade, probably mid 85 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's quite hot. But here in the later parts of the afternoon, a little bit of a breeze coming through, so there is a little bit of a respite for the animals. And as you can see, some of the buffalo have been wallowing in the cool mud, trying to cool off a little bit, as the rest of them are lying and they are chewing their cud, ruminating. Just see the tips of their horns poking out over their red grass, with the ever-present egrets making their way through the grass, trying to snap up all the little insects that they bump up. And there we've got a lot of elephant as well in the background. It's a fantastic scene here, with the marsh being full of animals. Now, our plan for the afternoon, I think we're going to make our way through between these animals and maybe up towards the forest there in the background, see if we can't find any of those lions hiding up in the shade, and maybe we'll even pop down to the river, see if there's any hippos about, look for some crocodiles, and of course whatever's in between. And I'm sure we'll try and take some of our little secret roads and ones that we haven't driven down at all yet, and those are the roads that we're looking for. I've been chatting with Archie, and as we've been going along, every road that we haven't driven on, well, that's the road we're going to take. So we've got a basic plan, but you know how those plans deviate with wildlife. You can't really make any plans. You sort of go in a direction, and then they throw all sorts of different and exciting things at you, and then we can stop and chat about them. So it's always a road of discovery. Every day we learn and see something new. Alright, so look at that little egret following up. He's chosen that buffalo as his right-hand man and where he's going to get his food from. But while we watch that little guy in the grass trying to find some insects, let's head you on over to Taylor, who's got one of our largest mammals.
We have one of the largest animals in one of the largest bits of water. No, I'm just joking, because that means it would be in the Mara River, but we're not anywhere near the Mara River just yet. But one of Manu and our favourite things to do is, as we cross a bridge, we always say we're going to see something on the other side. And we have, finally, in some water. We've got a rather large elephant. Hello, big boy. Are you having a jolly good time in that water? It's basically like a plunge pool with a buffet surrounding him, which is quite nice. I'm kind of envious him. He's got a couple of terrapins in the pool with him too. He's having a lovely time. Now, where are you going to get up? I don't know where he's going to go now, because he can't climb up the gabions. Remember, we watched the maintenance team making the gabions, those mesh, well, that mesh wire with all the rocks inside when they repair the bridges. So that's where we are at the moment, below the Chitwa Temple airstrip. But this is so nice. Now, he must have had some large sets of tusks, but he seems to have broken both of them. Actually, he's broken both of them almost in exactly the same spot, which is impressive. He must be an OCD elephant, because I feel like if I had tusks and I was going to break them, they'd have to be exactly the same as well. But I know that he has broken them. You can see how there's bits that are chipped off, and he's an older fella. I don't think he's particularly young. I think he's been on this earth for a long time. Look at that. I'm kind of jealous. Now, this would be the perfect opportunity, Manu, for you to run and jump on his back. No, I'm just joking. No, we don't do that. These are wild animals, and you cannot be riding any of them, nor would I ever want to ride an elephant either. Now, Electric Sloth, you're wondering if an elephant's brain is larger than a human's brain. I would imagine. The cavity inside their head is quite big, well, where the brain goes. I'm just trying to think in terms of weight. I'm not sure of the weight of either. Manu, do you know? Are you trying to look inside its ears to see if you can see its brain? Well, they're fairly intelligent creatures, so I would imagine they have a well-developed brain. Oh, no. Our sighting's about to be ruined, everybody. I'm so sorry, because we are on the bridge. Lots of people want to come past us, but maybe they also want to see the elephant. So let's see. We'll let them get in here. and I'm pretty sure they'll want to take some pictures of this too. I'll be quite shocked if they don't. So we'll just see for a couple of seconds. Manu's sign languaging. What are they saying? They want to go. Okay. We're going to have to unfortunately relocate, but it's fine because we're heading down to the river to look for leopards. Ralph is still sitting with that big herd of buffalo.
Thanks, Taylor. And yes, it's quite difficult to almost know where to look because we've got so many animals out here on the marsh. It's difficult to decide what we should be concentrating on. But there we've just spotted a few of the oxpeckers catching a ride on the back of this buffalo. So it's quite comical in the way that they're trying to keep their balance as the buffalo moves along, and at the same time every now and then trying to just pick off some of the parasites. But wonderful to watch. And we see the egrets floating there in the background. Remember, those oxpeckers are cooperative breeders, so generally you will find the same family all clumped together on the same animal, and they're all part of the bigger community that will be looking after each other, helping to build the nest, helping to feed their siblings. And so it's a wonderful little experience there. Now, Brad, you're wondering what is the difference between an oxbird and an oxpecker. Now, I'm thinking that the oxbird that you're speaking of is the cattle egret, or the egret, the white ones that we are seeing. They're walking around on the ground there. So the one that we just saw on the back of the buffalo, that's an oxpecker. But the oxbird is very often the term used for the egrets that walk with the buffalo, and they also often walk with your domestic cattle. Now, they don't take the parasites off of the cattle and the buffalo. They merely walk around the feet of them, and as the insects get bumped out, the egrets are waiting in anticipation to get an easy meal. There's one catching a ride, but he won't be necessarily picking ticks off of the buffalo. He's just got a lovely vantage point from where he can see the insects getting bumped out from these big animals moving through the grass. Because those insects also know that these birds are on the move looking for them, so they stay put. But when a big buffalo comes walking past, they obviously need to jump out the way, and that's when the egrets spot them and fly down and eat them. But the oxpeckers, they are literally sifting through the hair on the buffalo and picking out the ticks, because we call oxpeckers sanguinivores. Now, there's a lovely term for you. Sangui meaning blood, and vor meaning the eating of. So the eaters of blood being that of oxpeckers. Sanguinivore. A lovely little term that. And so oxpeckers are literally bloodthirsty birds, almost like vampires. They also do keep the wounds open sometimes on the animals where they pull the ticks off. They can be a little sore, and then they'll actually keep that wound open and drink the blood, because that's what they're after. When they pull off the ticks, it's normally the ones that have engorged themselves full of blood. Those are the ones that the oxpeckers are after, because they are literally drinkers of blood. And there you see the egret jumping down. He's probably spotted an insect. Now, Julia, you've asked the question, does it hurt the animals when the oxpeckers pull the ticks and bugs and pests off of them? Well, it can a little bit sometimes, and that's why you'll see sometimes the buffalo and the giraffe and even the impala, they get a little bit irritated with the birds sometimes, because they're climbing in and around their nose and in their ears and sometimes near to their bum as well. So they can be a little bit irritating, and when they pull those parasites off, it can hurt them a tiny bit. And that's why they get rid of them sometimes, but then they're allowed back, because I'm sure it's quite it's quite a nice feeling when you've got these itchy parasites that you can't remove, and then you've got a bird that comes down and helps you with that. But obviously it will hurt a little bit when they keep those wounds open, and so you'll sometimes see the buffalo sort of shaking their head and trying to get rid of them. But it's a little bit difficult when you're a four-legged animal walking through on the ground. You don't really have the limbs like we do as humans in order to swat the birds away. So in actual fact, mostly oxpeckers are really beneficial to the animals, but there are those times when they become a little bit parasitic, and when they keep those wounds open and start to drink the blood like vampires. Right, I think we've watched these from a distance for long enough. I think we're going to start up, head down the road. I turned this way so that we could sit in the shade, but we're going to head up this road, head down towards the forest and the tree line, see what's hiding in the shade there, and then off to the river. So, and in between, we're going to see if there's any secret roads that we can take. Now, Rishi, you're wondering why the horns of the buffalo are different from the ones in Djuma. Well, Rishi, I'm not quite sure why you think that. They might be slightly more curved or slightly different to the ones in Djuma, but it is the same species and it's the same animals. So it's just maybe different a little bit from place to place, slight differences, but on the whole, the same species and exactly the same horns with slight differences. It's like with the elephants. In different places in Africa, you'll have the African elephant with possibly different shaped tusks, different thickness of tusks. You know, for instance, I've seen in places in the Okavango Delta, in the swamps there in Botswana, where there's a very big lack or shortage of calcium. Now, this results in the tusks of the elephants becoming very brittle, and so you almost think that there's elephants there without tusks, but the reality is that there's so little calcium, their tusks break off regularly, and so it seems like there are tuskless elephants in parts of the Okavango Delta. So it's all just area specific and different variations. Sometimes you have slight different colors of the animals, and it goes as far as sometimes with the birds as well. The birds, we can have exactly the same species of birds here in the Masai Mara as we do in Djuma, but they have slight different dialects to the way that they call. So, for instance, an orange-breasted bushshrike, which we say is the air hostess bird, he does the kofiti-o-mi call perfectly in Djuma, whereas here in the Masai Mara, he might just do the kofiti. So it's just a different dialect, and it's almost like with us as humans, we all are the same species, but we have different languages all around the world. We have Chinese, we have French, we have Portuguese. So looking at that, it's very obvious that we can have the same species, exactly the same genetics, but with a different way of communicating. And in the same way, we can have different hairstyles. Some of us have straight hair, some of us have curly hair, some of us have black hair, some of us have blonde hair. As I just negotiate this 4x4 track here, let me just go in a higher gear so I don't spin so much. And we do have another Land Rover approaching us, so we'll be quite friendly with them. Alright folks, as I negotiate past this Land Rover here, I'm going to send you on over to Taylor.
Right, we've just checked the tree where the leopard was seen this morning, but no scar. Not surprised though. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to concentrate on the roads, of course, as I go through here. Should not try and look at the camera. Then we get this done quickly. Almost. Whee, little bump. So we're going to just quickly check this section of the Mara River. There's nice shady spots here. I'm pretty sure that this leopard lives around here all the time. And it's just so thick we don't see him. I've probably driven past him about 100 times. I come and check this area enough. Also just checking out to see if I can see any tracks, if he's maybe been moving around during the day. Let's just check under these things, shrubs. And it's important that you check carefully though, because you won't believe how animals can get lost in the shadows. Oh, there's a giraffe. Hi, giraffe. Perfect spot though for a leopard. You wouldn't have to go far to get a drink of water. It'd be really amazing to see a leopard drinking out of the Mara River. But we have a giraffe that is now feeding on some shrubs. How did you get down there, giraffe? That's a pretty steep bank. There must have been a hippo pathway of sorts that lead up and down, because, well, giraffe are pretty good at navigating treacherous terrain, just like the elephants are. But still, they still need a, you know, they, as tall as what they are, they can't just step off the edge of the cliff. They kind of have to find a decent pathway going down. So I wonder where that must have been. But a nice spot. It's always tough for the giraffe to try and find shade and a good spot to eat from. And I think that this giraffe has got the most fantastic place. The lovely tranquil sounds of the Mara River, the beautiful sound of my voice as I say nice things about this giraffe. No, I'm just joking, of course. I'm talking absolute nonsense. But you can see, look how eroded the banks are, and look how low the river still is. So even though there was a few downpours in the area, not enough to raise the level of the water, which is a bit sad. There used to be a pod of hippos that was around here, but I think it might even be too shallow for them now. They've probably moved to deeper pools. Philip, you're wondering if there's much soil erosion in the river? Most certainly. Often along rivers you'll find it, especially when you have exceptional downpours like we get in the Mara. This river will fill up very, very, very quickly, and then maybe go higher than it normally does, and then that will of course just erode the bank. There aren't lots of rocks and things and lots of grass growing on the bank to try and hold the soil in place, so it collapses quite easily. But that's kind of normal though, to see that. I heard a hippo, but I don't know where it is. I just heard it go pfft. But Manu's, there it is. Manu's got the eyes. There's one hippopotamus in a deep pool. There might be one or two more that are just holding their breaths at the moment. One of the funniest things I've seen, I have seen lots of funny things, is when it was raging here, the river was quite high, and there was a hippo that looked like it was white water rafting, trying to clamber over all the rocks to get to the rest of the pod. It was quite funny to see it moving down from where that hippo was down to the right, and it was quite cool. But I don't think we had signal here, or maybe we got it live. I think I was with Sebastian. It was when we had those hyenas on a hippo kill where the giraffe was, but no leopards here, I'm afraid. Well, they could be, and I just haven't seen them. That's also the case. It's probably the case. Now, I'm just making sure I don't drive us off the edge of the steep cliff. So you're wondering if that giraffe would be in any danger from a leopard? Not a fully grown one like that, no. But a young giraffe, yes. And Jamie had an incredible sighting with a shepherd tree male where he had captured a young giraffe and taken it up the tree. He might have eaten some of it on the floor first to lighten it, because they can be quite heavy creatures. But he did take it up. Although he's a big leopard, and if it was a newborn giraffe, could have quite easily taken that whole thing up. But it must have been, I would love to see a leopard doing something like that. Not because of necessarily the weight, just because the giraffe has got a long neck, it's got long legs, you know, it'd be quite awkward. Whereas something like a warthog and impala is a lot more compact in size. Yes, they're a little bit lighter, but it's easier to take something that's, you know, one size rather than bits and pieces. Especially imagine a leg gets caught on a branch as he's trying to climb around. It'd be a disaster. I don't think I'd be a very good leopard. Let's see. See, just down there is kind of, just before the bend is kind of where that leopard was, but up on the slope. But I don't see anything just yet. But again, he could just be laying under one of those thickets. Clifford, you're wondering if rock slides are fairly common. I haven't seen a rock slide. However, there are lots of signs as you drive towards Nairobi when you go through the Rift Valley. You know, there's that type of thing that happens. Here, maybe not so much. I'm trying to think if I've seen an area and that could have a really bad rock slide. No, just mudslides, I would say. Even on the escarpment, it's a little bit rocky. but there isn't much. Right, the cicadas are singing. Let's keep going. I love this route, except it's getting very overgrown. The elephants and giraffe need to come and do some pruning here. Up we go. Over some roots. Where we don't care. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay. Searching these. Roll. Hello.
So welcome back, folks, and we have been doing a little bit of 4x4ing, which is always very fun. And here we're just crossing a little bit of a drainage line once more, but we're going to come up the other side and have a beautiful view from the other side than we were earlier. So I just want to stop over here and we'll have a look at these elephant over the marsh, because it's a perfect position for us, and we can have a look from here. We've got a lovely view of the escarpment. We've got the marsh here with it just filled with elephants. What a wonderful view. Now, as we're going along next to the forest line here, or the tree and wooded area, we need to think like a lion. If we want to see a lion, we need to think like a lion. It's like if you're going fishing, you need to think like a fish. When the fish aren't biting, where or how or what would you be doing at that time if you were a fish? So at this very moment in time, I'm thinking if I was a lion, I'd be lying up in the shade somewhere, watching with a little bit of a view to be able to see if there's any warthogs especially walking past, and maybe downwind from the potential food source. So that's where we're going to be driving now, thinking like lions. And that's where we're hoping to find some of them. But we've got a lovely view of some elephants at the moment. We don't need to be worried about thinking like an elephant, because we can see most of them all moving through the marsh here, nicely keeping their feet cool as they go, and flapping their ears, getting that radiator working. Now, Chat Noir, I think it's after the little point I made earlier about the elephant's tusks that you're asking, don't the tusks continue to grow after they break? Well, they do, but they continue to break if they don't have the required minerals in their diet. So in fact, in parts of the Okavango Delta, which is the area that I saw a lot of these elephants with broken tusks, you can actually walk around or drive around there and you see pieces of elephant tusk lying all over the place. You initially think it's bone, but on closer inspection I found that and that's actually how I realized that it was their tusks that were breaking, because there was pieces of ivory all over the place. Now, I even wanted to try and sneak one into my pocket and take it home as a souvenir, and one of the locals said to me, because I was quite young at the stage and not very clever, and, well, I'm probably not very clever now anyway, but at the time, one of the locals said to me that I needed to be very careful, because if the authorities spotted me with that, I would land up in jail. So I very quickly dropped it back down on the ground and continued on my way. And needless to say, I didn't go to jail, thank goodness. But look at those wonderful specimens feeding there. There's a lovely set of tusks on that one on the right. But it's quite thin tusks that I've noticed here with these elephants. There's an odd one with nice, thick tusks coming through, but those ones with the brittle tusks in Botswana, I noticed that they were extremely thick at the base, a lot thicker than these, and maybe that was as a result of the animal actually trying to produce more I've forgotten now what the teeth are actually made up of, and I'll remember it in a minute, but maybe because they were breaking off, they were actually trying to produce more of that substance and making it very thick then in the end. So you see the egrets flying through in the background. It makes a wonderful scene with these elephants as they graze through. But we're going to start up again, thinking like lions, remember, and off we go down the tree line here, looking for some cats lying in the shade and anything else exciting that we might come across. Now, Julia, you're asking a very good question. Do different grasses and leaves have different nutrients for the elephant? Absolutely, Julia. It's very important to know what the nutritional value of the different grasses and leaves of trees have, especially as a management team or as a conservationist. You can look at the grass, which species of grass there is dominating a specific area, and you can tell the condition then of that soil and of the pasture in that area. And the reason we've got all these buffalo and these elephant grazing through here is because of the high nutrition value of these specific species of grass that is here. Because remember, elephants are mixed feeders, but in general I've seen them mostly feeding on trees and getting very good nutrition from specific trees. But here it's almost like they are solely grazers, which is totally unique for me, because I've never seen elephant grazing as much as they do here in the Masai Mara, and it just speaks volumes for the absolute very good nutritional value of this area. Now I just want to stop here because there's some very cute little baby elephants that are walking through there, and we know that we all love to look at baby elephants, so let's have a little squiz at this one. Now I wonder how old that little one is. I would say he's probably just over a year old, around about that age. And it's quite interesting to note that you see the elephant, the little baby, obviously it will always be just tall enough to be able to get in under mommy's front legs to be able to suckle some milk. But if you see animals like zebra, for instance, if you look at the little baby zebra, their legs are extremely long if you look at them in relation to their body. And this is an anti-predator tactic from the species of zebra and many of the other plains game, because those legs are so long in comparison to the body, so that it almost looks like when you look at mommy from the side, the baby is invisible because the legs are so long that the belly is at the same level as mommy's. So when predators look at zebra from across the plain, they can't pick out that there's a little baby behind mommy because the legs make it that the belly is at the same level as mom. But when we're looking at these little elephants, they are nicely at the right level to be able to get under mom and be able to suckle the milk. And there's a lovely group of elephants. Looks like that one has lost its tusk. It's only got one tusk. Now, whether that was as a case of what I've been talking about in a little bit of limitations in its diet, or was it through fighting with another elephant, which can often happen as well. And we're always on the lookout as well, remember, for any elephants without their tails, because as the pink panther comes through and the detective side of us needs to be looking for why the elephants have lost their tails. We haven't spotted any recently, but we were seeing a lot of them without tails or half tails, and so we're still looking out for why that is. And if any of you have got any comments or reasons as to why the elephants are losing their tails, my suspicion is they're getting grabbed by crocodiles. Now, Julie, you're wondering if this is one big herd, and if they travel in little herds or single groups or as one big herd. Julie, it seems that here on the Masai Mara and in the Mara Triangle, over these marshes here, it seems that there are a lot of individual herds coming together as a result of the great resource that they have here in the marsh. So I would say that there is one greater big herd here, but it is made up of a lot of little herds. And when I say little herds, I mean it could be between 15 and 50 individuals in that specific herd. So you'll have different matriarchs and different leaders within this greater group. And often we have been sitting with them, and there's a little bit of a smaller group come to join a group that we've been watching, and then you hear the rumblings of the matriarch, and then the individuals run back to their specific group. So it's almost like they do still maintain their individuality of their smaller groups, but it's very interesting to watch the social minglings of this gregarious species that is known as the elephant. We have so much to learn from them. I think we know very little, even though we have learned a lot over the last while, especially the last few years have probably increased our knowledge tenfold on elephants. For instance, with that subsonic communication that they have, before we had the technology to be able to listen to low frequency audio wavelengths and so on, we weren't able to understand that elephants were communicating on much higher levels than we initially thought. So when these very clever scientists came with these audio boxes that could pick up the low frequency, all of a sudden there was a plethora of noise coming from these animals, whereas normally if you had to sit next to them it would seem completely silent. Now the reason for that is the human ear can only hear a specific range of frequency, and elephants communicate, I think it's around 80% of their communication is below what the human ear can actually hear. So we're actually only hearing less than 20% of their communication, which is incredible, because if you had to put one of those boxes here that could pick up all the noise, it would probably be very loud. Whereas when we're sitting here now, we can pretty much hear the grass getting ripped up out of the ground, and every now and then there's a small rumble that, which is the sound that we hear, but that's only part of what we can hear. So it's quite difficult for us to then actually know. But with those clever scientists, we have now been able to realize the large extent to their communication noise. Now, Martin, you've commented that the grass is very tall. Yes, it is, and it's because of the substrate that it's growing on. A very healthy soil and very rich in nutrients. So the grass here has sprouted, and that's why these elephants are loving it. Look at this little baby, obviously playing around a little bit. Just watching that little baby, and I have seen times when there's been little babies stuck in different situations, but one of them that I remember quite well was when I was in Etosha National Park, and there was a waterhole where we stopped at, and there was a lot of elephants around this waterhole, and we were watching them for quite a while, and then we saw one of the babies actually stepped into the waterhole, and it was relatively deep, but it had steep sides. So he wasn't completely covered by water, but he then struggled to get out, and then it became very evident that he was actually stuck. And immediately, once the realization came to the elephants that there was a problem with this baby, there was absolute chaos. All of the elephants on the outskirts started to chase zebra and impala away, almost getting rid of any kind of threat. And all the females then rallied around this little baby to a point that we couldn't even see it. All we saw was legs and bottoms of the female elephants. And while the other elephants on the outskirts were chasing zebra and getting rid of any threat, And it took quite a while, but eventually we couldn't even see it because of the amount of elephants around this little baby. Eventually they had seemed to have pulled it out of the water, and they all huddled around it and moved off in a formation with the baby in the middle. And it was very obvious that they were very stressed about this baby being stuck in the water, but they rallied around and they pulled it out and they moved off. But with those bodyguards on the outskirts getting rid of any kind of threat, it was almost fantastic to watch how they worked together as a unit. And yeah, I wouldn't have liked to have been in the way of those bodyguards on the outskirts, because even the zebra ran for cover and there were trees pushed over and it was absolute chaos. Well, it seemed like absolute chaos, but it was obviously just for the pure reason of getting that baby out of the water, and the result was good. Alright, so as we see that little group coming together and the little baby elephant there once more, there's a black-headed heron looking for frogs and insects and lizards and anything else that moves. We're going to start heading along the tree line again and see if we can spot any lions. But while we start up and move off, let's head on over to Taylor and see what she's been able to find along her road.
It's been fairly quiet. We're just now seeing some zebra. However, this morning we did see some cars gathered in an area that we checked yesterday afternoon for the Triangle Boys. So I haven't seen any more cars gathering around there now, so it's just watching the road, very bumpy. But shall we give it another bash? Maybe we missed them yesterday, or they were just moved off out of sight, and of course we didn't see them. And they've come back out in the open, so we're going to just zip around and see if we can get there quickly. Otherwise, the Angama pride, I'm pretty sure, are in the same area. I saw some vehicles looking in the grass, but because it's so hot, I can't imagine that they'd be up and doing much. I tried to look at my binoculars from a distance, but couldn't see anything, so to me that meant that they were horizontal. So we'll just go around and see what's happening here. Well, I think it might be one of those quiet drives again. Hi, Zebbies. I like that little warthog over there, and there's a couple of them. One looks like it's getting ready to go home already in the shade. Scarlett, you were wondering if we find many spiders in our cars before we set off. No, surprisingly. However, at Djuma we do. I'll never forget the brown recluse spiders that used to make their webs and lay their eggs under the acceleration pedal. That was always nice. All the sack spiders that would fall from the roof. There were lots of different spiders. All the big zebra jumping spiders I'd find in my vehicle were my particular favourite, and there's no sarcasm there, I promise. But I haven't, thankfully, found too many spiders. A couple of jumping spiders here and there, but other than that, not so much. We see a lot of nursery web spiders actually in camp, in the kitchen. They've made nests in all sorts of different places, and then there's lots of different things. But spiders also use warthog burrows to live in too, you can imagine. Nice and cool, nice dark place, so I'm sure there'll be a couple of cobwebs if you went creeping on in especially a burrow that's not active. And that's actually a good way to tell if a warthog burrow is active or not. If you see webs across the entrance of the burrow, you know that there's probably no one living there. And if there isn't, then it's probably occupied by a creature of sorts. Off they go. Run, run, run. Oh, there's got a bit of a shake. I wonder what's it got. See, it keeps shaking its head. Well, it was. I think something has stung it, or was biting it. Maybe ants, a bee, a wasp. Anything along those lines, really. Now it's settled down again. Hey, girl. Oh, no. Something's still bothering you. That can't be pleasant. That's why I'm so thankful that we have hands, because, if something was biting on my face, I could quite easily get rid of it. These poor animals, they don't have tails that are long enough to swat right round and whack them on their face, or they've only got hooves, so they've got to wipe their snouts on their front legs or on the ground, and sometimes that's not quite enough. Not very accurate. Getting out of there, though. Off it goes. And just stopping every now and then, looking back at us. That was very abrupt, and now it's eating. Make your mind up, girl. And gone again. They are such funny creatures to watch. I'll never forget that day that I had that sighting on Cheetah Cutline with Chitwa, where we had my favourite warthog that chased Gwen out of her burrow. That's got no hair. He's got a stumpy tail. And he was chasing another boar around, and he came diving into that little mud wallow that's just off the side of the road. I'll never forget that slide that he did. That was the happiest I think I've ever seen a warthog. And off she goes. Right. So, shall we? We shall also go and see what's around the corner. We're just sort of bobbing and weaving. I'm hoping as we snake around we'll go back past where the jackal's like, and then we'll head down and around where the Angamas are, and hopefully that'll be enough time and that the lions would have woken up by then. It's never nice trying to watch these cats sleep in long grass. Even watching them feed in long grass becomes increasingly difficult. Okay, so we're getting to this fun part of the road where it's really bumpy and I should concentrate. Ralph, however, has got a creature that has got lots of feathers on it.
Yes, thanks, Taylor. Well, we haven't just got one creature. We were not really looking that hard because we were watching the elephants, but when I scanned over the marsh here, we noticed that there were a lot of animals. And look at the saddle-billed stork. I think he's got a frog. He had one. There, it's gone already. That was really quickly swallowed down. And they've been catching all sorts. I think there's lots of frogs around. And he swallowed that without even worrying. It seems to be little platanas that we call them, Cape platanas, I think. And I'm not quite sure. They're gobbling them down so fast that I can't even see what kind of frogs they are. But we've got these saddle-billed storks, and there's also a whole number of other birds as well. If we go out, you'll see there in the distance, just over the top of those saddle-billed storks in the background, we've got the largest geese of the region, which is the spur-wing goose, and this is the most amount of spur-wing geese I've ever seen. And there's obviously only a few, but there's a lot of them in the greater area that we're looking at the moment. And they're quite big. They've got spurs on the inside of their wings that they use to smack each other with in their little dominance fights, because they are quite territorial. But here we see them all enjoying the same resource, so not a problem at all. And we've also got black-headed herons that are moving through, and there's an odd-crowned crane. There's a sacred ibis. And the white one there. Remember why they're called sacred ibis? The Egyptians named them that because they help to eat the snails, which are the vectors of bilharzia. And now, Richard, you're asking how am I able to identify these birds so quickly? Well, Richard, it didn't come easy when I first started birding, and in fact I'm only getting to a very good point now, and this is sort of 20 years down the line. I wasn't a very avid birder when I started out, and I almost wondered what is it all about. But it's like speaking a language. Once you start to understand the little differences between the birds, and you start to understand which groupings you need to go to, and you start to find it a lot easier, then you start to enjoy it a lot more. Like speaking a different language. When I first started speaking French, I really thought, what is it all about? And this is a waste of time. But the more I learned, the more I enjoyed it, and the easier it became. And so it was a domino effect, and very similar to that of birding. First, you start out, it's very difficult, and it all seems the same. All the birds sound the same, or all of them start looking the same. But as you start singling them out, and you start getting them right, and you start enjoying it, it all becomes so much easier. So As I say, it wasn't an easy process when I first started, but I've started enjoying it a lot more because it's become a lot easier now that I've spent some time at it, and I've practiced it as well. It's like a language in that if you don't practice, you also lose it. So you need to retrain every time you've been away, and once you start talking again, you do pick it up quite easily in the end. But still quite difficult to start. Have a look at these birds here. Now, Joy, you're wondering about those saddle-billed storks and wondering if they're both males. Now, I'm just going to grab them up in the book here and we'll have a very close look at it, because as far as I know, they are both quite colourful and there's not too much to tell between them. But I'm just going to get the book out and we'll make sure. Very old school in that I don't really, I'm still learning about all these apps and how to use them. But it seems that the female just has a little bit of a less wattle on her bill, but they've both got very clear coloration. So very much like those two there. So that is a male and a female, and they both are very well coloured. But the male will just have a little bit more of an elaborate wattle at the base of the bill. As we can hear hardy-dar ibis also calling in the distance. They're very common in many areas of southern Africa, and it seems here as well. And there's a black-headed heron. Now, if you watch him, it looks like he's going in for the kill. Very often you'll see with the herons and the egrets, when they identify something that's moving in the grass, they will move their neck backwards and forwards, almost in a way trying to imitate a blade of grass, and so that they aren't seen. Now, that one that's just come in there, is that not an open bill stork? I need to get my book out. You see here now, Richard, I'm not quite up to speed with all of these birds. There's lots of new ones here, but it's lovely to get some new birds that we can get the book out and try and identify. Are they Abdons? Abdon stork? Now, Tom, you're wondering what preys on these geese and storks. Well, it's most likely to be, you could have some small predators preying on them, such as caracal and jackal, but they mostly move around during the day and then go and roost at night. So it would most likely be big birds of prey. So any of your big eagles, you see how he wobbles his neck like that? That's normally once he's identified a little bit of prey. There we go. I wonder what he got. They always get that little wobble going before they strike. It's almost like they're imitating a piece of grass. A little bit like that of a chameleon when they're walking on an open patch. And I know that Noel had one the other day crossing the road, and it took quite a while for him to cross the road, but imitating grass as he went. But the answer to that question with what is the predator of these birds, I would say the biggest predator would most likely be that of more birds and bigger birds of prey, eagles, crowned eagles, even Verreaux's eagles, a few different ones. So I don't think mostly, because they're also walking through the marsh as well, and very alert. Really difficult for jackals and caracal and animals like that to be able to catch them. Every now and then you can also see birds getting taken by crocodile. If they go down to the edge of the water and they're drinking, the crocodile can ambush them because they can come under the water, get very close, and then strike just as they're busy drinking. But here in the marsh, it doesn't seem like there's any crocodiles that would bother them. So that sacred ibis will probably be quite safe here. Now, Mia, you're wondering if any of these birds ever fight over the same prey? Yes, absolutely. But it seems that there's so much food around here that they don't particularly have to fight for it. But you always see animals fighting over food when there's only little bits of food available. So when there's lots of food, there's no reason to fight. There's enough for everybody. And it seems like that's what's happening at the moment, because nobody seems to be fighting. Everybody got enough to eat, and why would you want to fight if everybody's got a plate full of food? But if your brother's got a plate full of food and yours is empty, and while you're hungry, folks, we've got one or two little gremlins that are starting to play up with us again. So we're just going to work hard behind the scenes. And in the meantime, we're just going to send you over to the mountain cam. But we'll be back as soon as we can.
We're back with the creatures that are oh so tall. Sorry about that, everybody. The gremlins. were attacking us a little bit, but I hope you enjoyed the beautiful view of the Mara Triangle. It's very pretty, but we're back now, and hopefully that would have resolved the issue. Sometimes we just have to turn it on and off again, and that normally sorts the problem out. But look who we've got. We've got the jackals. Yesterday they were braving elephants, and now they've decided to take on the tallest of them all. Jackal, you guys are very brave. I'm very impressed with the four of you. But there's just the one that we can see. I'm not sure where the other one is, or the other three are actually. Why does it feel like I'm speaking in rhymes today, Manu? I don't know why. Anyways, but I'm very sad about these jackal. And the reason why is because I know every day that passes, they're soon going to move off and go on their own, and they're no longer going to be in this area. And I've grown quite attached to the Fantastic Four. They're such lovely little creatures, and they've been so fantastic over the last few weeks, showing up every single day when the other animals were hiding away, coming around the cars. It was so nice. But just as quickly as they were there, they have now disappeared. Now, I have got the poem. It's all completed, so thank you very much for all of your contributions. However, I cannot read it just yet, because when I read the poem, the jackal need to be very close to the car or chasing around some insects or something like that when we have a better view. So that's going to be the idea behind it. Right. I'm going to send you now across to Ralph. He's got animals that I think are much closer than our little jackal, and he's finally found some big cats.
Thanks, Taylor. And guess what, folks? We were thinking like lions, and wow, we were managed to find them. And we've got two females here that are on the prowl. Looks like they are quite ready to head on over to the marsh and possibly do some hunting. So I think we're going to be following them. They're looking very energetic, rubbing up against each other, a lot of tail flicking, and they've come out looking out over the plain with a very pointed reasoning behind it, I think. I think they're hungry, and we maybe see them going for some food. So very nice to see. They're looking out over the plain and obviously trying to identify if there's anything worth going after. There's a few buffalo just behind us that are lying down. Now, James Richard, thanks for your comment. It's the last Catterday of 2017. Hopefully it's going to be a very good one. Well, I agree. And hopefully we can follow these two ladies, and maybe they'll lead us to something very exciting, because we came through here with this objective, and so it's been lovely to find them just coming out of the forest right at the perfect time. So we were in the right place at the right time. Was it down to us thinking like lions? Maybe, maybe not. But we were here, and we are here, and we're watching these two female lions live. It's such a privilege to be in their presence here, and we're hoping that they're going to get down to a little bit more action. But we'll just have to sit and wait, because if they're experienced, which they seem to be, and it looks like this female that's sitting close to us is also lactating, so she's got cubs, and I'm sure that they'll bide their time and they'll persevere, but looking for the right prey. Look how heavy that looks there. Now, Dallas Cowboys, thanks for your comment saying that she looks ready. I think they both are ready for the hunt. And it's looking very ominous that we're going to see some very interesting behavior here coming up right soon. Well, we can only hope for the best. They have now lain down. So we just hope that that's not going to be their position for the rest of the day. But they are lying in the sun, so I think that they may be just planning their attack and maybe identifying if there's a warthog or something that hasn't noticed them. They've been walking into the wind as well, which is always a good sign with lions. Very often if they're walking with the wind, you can almost write off the hunt. Obviously, if there's an opportunity that arises, they will take it, but generally they'll walk into the wind, because if they walk with it, everything downwind of them knows that they're coming. And that was the fault of that female the other day that was stalking the topee. She had spotted it and it was unaware, but she went directly downwind of herself in an attempt to try and catch it. And eventually the topee just picked up on her smell and the game was over. But right now these two facing into the wind, trying to see and identify their prey. Now, Julia, you're wondering if female lions will hunt buffalo, or do they need to have males around? Julia, normally the females are more than capable of hunting buffalo, and they'll take an opportunity as it arises. But it is quite unusual for just two females like this to take on a big buffalo. So I would imagine that they're looking for something a little bit smaller, and the easiest is always a warthog that's not aware of its surroundings. And very often the warthog are just generally not aware of their surroundings, very poor eyesight, and they tend to be a little bit silly, putting themselves into position where the lions can easily take them out. So remember that it's also always a question of the energy that you put out for the energy that you get back. So the lions are always going to be going for the easiest target, and that normally is an unsuspecting warthog. Now this female's back on the go again. Very often you can see one going off and then the other one heading in a different direction, and they can set traps. That's what is the beauty of watching lions hunt, is that they are sociable and they're group hunters. They're not just going to be moving on their own, and they can ambush animals, or they can chase animals towards where the others are waiting in ambush. So it's always fascinating to watch them. But these two definitely look hungry and definitely ready for the hunt. Now, Kamora, you're wondering how fast are the lions? Well, we say that they can reach speeds of up to about 80 kilometers an hour, which is about, I think it's about 50 miles an hour. So if you think of it in terms of the 100 meters, at full speed, they could run them 100 meters in 6 seconds. And less. So think about how fast Usain Bolt runs it. I think it's 9.5 seconds or so. Well, 3 seconds quicker than that. Just imagine, over 100 meters, 3 seconds is a long time. When you see Usain Bolt winning those races, and it's 0.4 of a second faster than the person behind him, but the person behind him is literally like 5 or 6 yards behind him, and that's only 0.5 or 6 of a second. Imagine 3 seconds. These lions will be 20 meters ahead of Usain Bolt. So, very quick indeed. But they still need to get very close to their prey before they actually start the final chase, because they're very quick in acceleration, but animals like topee, they will outrun them if they don't get close enough before they start that last chase. So they've both laid down now, but they're still looking out. Now, Richard, you're wondering how often the lions have to eat. Richard, to answer your question, it's pretty much based on what they've fed on last. So if they feed on, for instance, if they catch a warthog now, if they feed on that, these two females could flatten a warthog within half an hour. And that will sustain them for up to 2 to 3 days at the most. But if they eat small little piglets, they would have to eat one of those a day. So it's all dependent on that. If they catch a zebra, they could feed on that for 3 or 4 days. And then carry on for 3 or 4 days without eating after that. The other day, it's probably these same lions. They killed a hippo not far from here, and they fed on that for between 5 and 7 days. And this might be the first time they're actually going hunting after that. So it's a good 3 or 4 days after they fed on that hippo, and they spent a good time on it at the time. So it's always worth the risk if you can get a big animal like a zebra or a buffalo, but the risk is high because those animals are also very adept at protecting themselves. So lower risk, lower gain, higher risk, higher gain. Okay, everybody, so we hope that we're going to be getting some action here from these lions and potentially going on the hunt, but we are going to just watch them for now and see if they identify any kind of prey. But it's wonderful to watch them on the lookout, and they're just scanning for now. Now, PT Watcher, you're asking a fabulous question in that, aren't these the two females with lots of youngsters? I believe you might be right, because they're both lactating, so I don't know if that's part of the marsh breakaway pride, but both of these females have definitely got young cubs, because their mammary glands are full of milk. So we haven't seen any of the cubs, and that's a good sign, because if these females are on the hunt, they would have stashed them in the thicket, in the tree line, and they're off. So those cubs need to stay put now until these females have completed the hunt. Maybe they'll get some meat that they can drag back to the cubs. Alternatively, they could feed on whatever they catch at that point and then return to the cubs, or one of them might stay with the kill, and the other one could go and fetch them and bring them to the kill. So there's many options that could play out here, but we just need to wait and see. There's no script here, folks. This is all wild and free. So that is what is so amazing and fabulous to watch. See how she gets more aware when she's maybe spotted a potential target. Ears go up, head raised, that nose starts twitching a little bit. She's obviously trying to pick up any scent that's coming through. Definitely looking at something. Got a little bit of a breeze coming through, and we can hear the little birds calling in the forest line here, but otherwise it's all deathly silent. Definitely trying to work out if there's something worth hunting there, but whatever that was, she seems to have lost a little bit of interest in it. Once they positively identify a target, you'll see that head come up, as she did, but then she'll focus. Now, Grateful Dad, you're wondering if we can see what prey they're watching. I'm just going to ask Archie to have a look past the back of the vehicle, because it's directly in the line of the back of the car, which I don't have a view of at the moment. And Archie says that there's potentially something walking through the grass there, but we can't exactly see what it is. So I might just move the vehicle just back so that we've got a better view, Grateful Dad, and then we can maybe answer your question a bit better. So there we go, folks, and it seems like, Grateful Dad, that there's a couple of buffalo that are lying down just here in the marsh. So maybe the female has been watching them, but she might have lost interest because they are such big targets for just the two females. So she's experienced enough to know that just the two of them would struggle to bring down a big buffalo, and it would be a very high risk for them. So she's maybe now gone down because of that risk of taking on a buffalo. But if there's a warthog that moves through here and they spot it, I can guarantee you that she's going to be after it. And shame, I feel for the little piggies, but it would be wonderful for us to see as well. So she's directly in front of us now. Julia, you're wondering how many meals would a warthog supply for 2 lionesses? Well, it depends on how big the warthog is. If it's a little piglet, they'll probably fight over it, and it's almost like just a mouthful. But if it's a fat male or female adult, it could be a rather decent meal, but they'll probably flatten it quite quickly as well. But it will be decent for both of them, half-half, and they'll probably share it. Although if one of the male lions realize that they've made a kill, he could run in and chase them off it and eat all of it on his own, as we had with a group of lions the other day. So, folks, I don't think we're going to be moving anywhere, but for the time being, these lions have gone down. I do think they're going to be smelling out for anything that walks through the grass, and we'll be here waiting. And in the meantime, let's send you on over to Taylor, who's got some of our feathered friends.
We're keeping with the theme of birds. We've got a family of 4. We've got southern ground hornbills. We've also got a car that's just going, I think they're going to pass through, so we'll just let them pass through, then we'll carry on looking at the birds. But very cool, again very hot. That looks like this juvenile. And the reason why I can tell that it's a juvenile is because of the different color facial plumage that it has. They don't want to go. I was just telling these guys that they can go, because we're going to be just sitting looking at them. Now, of course, they're out looking for things to eat, typically like what birds, like secretary birds, like herons, like the egrets, all do. Walking, trying to flush their prey out. But perhaps these hornbills need to go to the area where the secretary bird was earlier on this afternoon. What are you doing? You're circling your prey. You've turned into a vulture. I feel like there's something there. Have we got something? Not sure what that is. Is it a beetle? What it's doing is crushing that carapace with its beak. If it is a little beetle, it's a bit hard to tell though. The beetle might be playing dead, but unfortunately it won't win this battle. That hornbill will eventually eat it. God, they're so gentle. It's amazing how much accuracy they have with those beaks as well. How they're able to, of course, throw it up. Now, there is the young juvenile to feed. Let's see if this adult is going to gobble it up itself, or if it is going to take it across to that sub-adult. But I feel like that young southern ground hornbill is aging. And the reason why I say that is because it's not making so much noise, constantly begging. We saw the oxpeckers this morning, the juveniles, how when they are young and still learning to go on their own, how they chatter so much. And I always say this, they're constantly reminding the adults that they need food. And they've got to eat and eat all the time. But these hornbills have decided to stop at one of the busiest. Oh, what has it got, Manu? That one actually had something massive in its mouth, just as you pulled away. What's that? It's got something. I don't know if it's a big grasshopper, maybe. Walking away with it. I feel like this one's going to gobble it up itself, and not share. I just want to see one catching a chameleon. I haven't seen that for a long time. Debbie, you said they look so prehistoric. They do. And I think also because that they feed on the ground as well. See, there's the youngster. And actually doing quite well in getting its own little beetles and grasshoppers and other insects to eat. So that's what makes me think that it's an older one. It's an older chick. It's not such a youngster. It's able to find food. It's been learning from the adults probably from the last few years. And on it goes. Very lucky to see these birds. They are very special birds in Africa. Unfortunately, they are considered vulnerable. So it's always an absolute treat seeing them. Still walking with its beetle. Just going down into the little gully now. There we go. Walking through. Let's see, it looks like he's going to feed the other one. Oh, well, they're going to have a little tussle over it. They're sharing. Very sweet. Oh, that's nice. Interesting. Maybe that's the dominant breeding pair there. And they're reminding and reiterating that bond. Zephyr Canine, you're wondering what makes them endangered. Is it their feathers? Good guess, though, because they do have very, very, very pretty feathers. But it isn't. It isn't their feathers that what makes them endangered. Unfortunately, these birds tend to get poisoned quite a bit, and that's from poisoning carcasses, say because of other big predators like lions and things feeding on cows and goats. So that's one of them. And also they're very slow breeders too. So that's another reason. They only lay 2 eggs every 7 years or so. That's how long it takes for a youngster to reach adulthood, and that youngster will stay with the adults and most likely stay within that family group as well and continue to live its days. So there are a number of different reasons, but having such a slow reproduction rate, it doesn't help the situation either. But we're lucky. And I hope that they return down to the Eastern Cape of South Africa, because they're not particularly common down there. They obviously have been sighted every now and then, but I think when the poison that came round and wiped out all the oxpeckers and the Cape vultures, I wouldn't be surprised if it did the same thing to these poor birds. There we go, just up in that patternwood, that same tree that the baboons were in today, and the same tree that the hammerkorp nest is in. Actually, it's going... Manu, hold on. I want to go there very quickly. They're going into the hammerkorp nest. Well, it just looked like it. I don't think they'd go inside. I'm going to try a roll here. Check at this. This is amazing. Oh, Manu, I know we've got a good spot here. Look at this. Digging through the abandoned hammerkorp nest. So we watched a male and female hammerkorp about a week ago actually start building this nest, and they seem to have abandoned it for some bizarre reason. Now the hornbill's just having a quick look, and very clever. I mean, they will eat other birds. They'll eat chicks, and there could be beetles and things living in there. Maybe a rat or a mouse crawling around. There could be a lot of different animals that would feed on. I'm just listening to a pied kingfisher that is obviously trying to fish as well. There's lots going on around here today. But it seems as though they've actually just come up here. They're having a bit of a rest, had a quick look around, but no luck in finding anything more to eat. So this is the best way to escape the heat of the day, is just to stand in the shade of a tree. And also it'll be nice and cool because there's water just down below them. So it is a lot cooler here. Manu and I are also enjoying it quite a bit. It is... What a lovely day. We really have had luck. It's been our birding day today. Now, Francis from Israel, you said, is it eating the eggs? Well, there aren't any eggs in that nest, but I wonder if there were, what it would do. I've actually never seen a southern ground hornbill raid a nest, and it was clearly looking for something. It also wouldn't surprise me if it pecked open an egg, especially an egg that was half developed. These birds feed on a multitude of things. And they also feed on carrion, so they'll actually scavenge off of carcasses, which is pretty amazing. I've only seen that a handful of times too. What are you two doing? They were chasing each other around just now, but now you can clearly see the difference between the adults and the youngsters. They are beautiful. Look at those beautiful eyes. It's almost got blue eyes and the most luscious eyelashes too. You're not so pretty just yet, don't worry. You'll grow into yourself. It's like that awkward teenage stage. Probably complaining now. It hasn't got anything. And you? What are you doing? I don't know what that bird is doing. Well, Well, you've said that you just put this bird on your list, which you've just started. Congratulations. Keep adding to your list, Val. It'll be exciting to see what you get over the next few days. Keep us updated if you do get any new ones, or send us a list of ones you'd like to see. Maybe we can try and find them for you. I'm going to reverse. Where's that kingfisher going though? Oh no, it's gone around the bend. There was a pied kingfisher flying around, but it is now flown away. Nice. Interesting behavior. Very, very nice. Something that I have not seen before, and I don't know how many of you have actually seen a southern ground hornbill going through another bird's nest. Very interesting. I love it that we learn on every single game drive. Right, Ralph is sitting with the big cats, and they were moving around quite a bit during the heat of the day. Let's see if they're still up and on the go.
Thanks, Taylor. Well, the females, they're not up and on the go, but their heads are still up, their ears are raised, and they're still alert. So we can only hope, but it is still a good sign, and you know that this situation can change in an instant. Still keep looking out over the plain, into the marsh, and they are still keen to hunt. But a lovely picture all the same. Look at the muscles on that female. She is just purely built for speed and stealth and power. A killing machine, but also a very affectionate mother. It's a very dichotomous, those two things, a killing machine and a affectionate mother. But it is indeed what they are. Beautiful. A lovely setting that, eh? A lion in all her glory. Wow. Can't get enough of it, eh? And I've been in the presence of many lions, but it's always exciting and always nice to see. It's just like hearing them call at night. It's one of the most amazing things about Africa. It's sad to know that lions were actually one of the most well-distributed cats in the world. I mean, they used to even go right through Britain, right into Russia, and I think even into China. And that's obviously why you have the British lions, it's their emblem, because there used to be lions even there. But now it seems that they are restricted to only natural reserves, national parks, and in some small isolated pockets of non-protected areas, such as some of the areas I know in the northwestern parts of Namibia, which aren't protected, and there are still lions there, but they are dwindling as more people start to encroach into the areas where these animals have been eking out an existence. So we have to be happy now to be seeing these animals in national parks and protected areas, but at least we can see them all the same. Now, Fred, you're wondering what happened to the Persian lion and why did it go extinct? Well, Fred, it's normally quite an easy answer. When you've got an apex predator and you've got lots of humans, the result is normally no more predator, because it normally gets involved with the humans' cattle and livestock, and potentially even killing humans, and we know what happens then. So I would say in Persia, I'm not exactly sure, and so I don't have a definitive answer for you, but my educated guess is that there were more humans, and so there were then less lions, and I think it's quite populated there now. And as a result, you don't have any more lions, because they won't be living wild in areas where there is human population because of that obvious threat. and folks, it is also easy for us to step back, or wherever we are in the world, and, have negative views towards people that kill lions, or like we saw just recently, there was a little cub speared. It's very easy for us to sort of point a finger from our relative luxury, and where we say that, how can people do that? But it's humans. It's not particular humans in a particular space. It's humans in general. It's all of us. We're all to blame, because I can tell you, if lions threatened my livelihood or my little children, there would only be one winner in that case, and I won't be letting the lion be the winner. And you need to live, or think about living, a day in the life of the people that live in contact with these wild animals, to be able to understand why they would go about doing that. They don't do it just to be nasty. It's as a result of conflict and on their livelihood. So it's not as easy for us just to say, why are they being so stupid? It's humans. We're all stupid. We're all overpopulated. And what is the real solution to it? I don't know. We can't sit back and say we should be depopulating the human race. That's not fair, because who are we going to start culling? It's quite humorous if we look at it that way. But the resultant overpopulation of humans means that we will have less threats from wild animals, because we'll take them out. And if you can say that you wouldn't, well, I don't know if you were really put in that position, if you truly wouldn't. So, folks, it's one of those unanswered questions. How do we solve this human-animal conflict? There isn't a real answer to it. I haven't been able to come up with an answer to it. The best we can do is try and live side by side, but with predators, it's not as easy. So, with that lovely thought, we're going to send you on down south to Scott, all the way in the Sabi sands, for him to say hello.
Good afternoon, everyone, and yes, us humans are certainly getting in the way of all the poor animals and thus causing some of them to go extinct. My name's Scott. I'm teamed up with Senzo on camera, and we've literally just let's take a look at this bird drinking first, because it's a very pretty bird. It's called an emerald spotted wood dove, and you'll see those little emerald windows on its wings that iridesce if the sun catches them in the right way. There we go. Perfect. Hello, you cute little dove. Chop. And it's off. So, that's not what we stopped to show you here. What we stopped to show you were some fresh leopard tracks. Quite fresh. The reason why I know that is because we got a report from somebody that drove down this road about 2 hours ago that they in fact saw a leopard. So we came here to check in and try and find out exactly what's gone on. And here we can clearly see the pug marks and the toe marks heading down the road. Now, what's interesting is that we got a report saying that this was a big male leopard, the local dominant male called Tingana. But looking at these tracks, I can assure you that that is not case. So maybe it was just one of the kind of staff, or maintenance staff who don't spend time out in the bush and they just know some of the leopards' names. But definitely a leopard, and I guess we're going to turn around now and continue trying to work out where this animal has gone. What's going to make it tricky is that once it's rained, in certain low-lying areas like this, you may get some kind of muddy, slushy areas, but the majority of the roads here will actually solidify. All the rain will bring the sand particles closer together, compacting them, so just about anything that walks down roads like this are going to be very difficult to see. And even though I've been scanning for tracks, I haven't managed to see one until now, and we've driven along this road for about a quarter of a mile, so it's going to be a tricky tracking exercise, but at least we now know the direction of movement, and I'm I'm guessing that this is not even a male leopard, I'm guessing that it's a female. The tracks actually look bigger than they are because they would have not slid but created a deeper impression, thus making them look bigger due to that slushy, muddy section. Now, I am going to just find an appropriate spot to turn around here. I think this will do. Julia, are you interested to know why will some guides exit the vehicle and others not? Well, I think it's fair to say that most of our crew down in the Sabi Sands will exit the vehicle as and when they require. But in the Masai Mara, where Ralph and Taylor are exploring with you guys, there's different rules and regulations, so they're not really actually allowed to get out the vehicle up there, whereas we are allowed to get out the vehicle here and go and track the animals. We've got more free reign here because this is privately owned land. So just, we find ourselves in a fortunate position here. So I hope that answers your question, Julia. And I guess the main thing to remember is that each guide will have its own style and slightly different, you know, things that enthuse them. So you may find some guides more likely to get out of the vehicle than others. What would be wonderful, as soon as technology gets better and we require less cables to connect everything together, will be that if we find tracks, we can just unclip the camera and start walking off into the bush and take you along with us. But at the moment, we are a little bit limited with regards to taking you along for little short expeditions from the vehicle. We do bushwalks, of course, so that is something that you can look forward to if you have yet to experience a bushwalk. Okay, very good. Now I need to concentrate, which is a difficult task for me, so I'm going to send you across to Noelle to let you know what she's going to get up to this afternoon.
I'm also working on my concentration skills, Scott. Hello everyone, I'm Noelle. I hope everybody's good on camera today. I have Ferg. How's it, Ferg? Ferg is saluting, doing a little of this. We have tracks of lions that were happening during the rain and just after the rain this morning. So yay, we got rain! Not as much as I was hoping for, but we did. Now I'm just, sorry, I was looking at them back there and now I'm just trying to find them again, and I'm hoping they're on this side of the property and not the other side, because the other side I can't drive on. And so what I'm going to do is, I saw most of them sort of heading in this way. I'm going to come down the fire break here and see if we can find them again. So this would have been for the Styx lions. I do know that at least one of the Birmingham males is up in Torchwood at the moment, and I'm not quite sure which other lions are with him. I haven't gotten that full update yet. I am hoping that Scott manages to catch the leopard whose tracks he's following. After we get the kind of rain that we got this morning, a lot of the scent marking is washed away from that rain. So you're starting to see predators that need to mark their territory, or even something like a rhino that needs to mark their territory is now going to start going around, and earlier in the afternoon than normal, because it's not too hot. It's a little bit humid, but it's not too hot, and going around this time to remark that territory so that something doesn't come in and say, oh, I don't smell anything, this must be open, and then start demarcating, and then they have to fight for their territory. As much as they want to control their territory, whether it's predators or rhinos, they don't necessarily want to get in combat with anything because they can injure themselves, they could die from it, and so there's a very fine balance, and that's part of what all of this scent marking does for them. So, ooh, yeah, but we need more rain. I'm sorry. We need 2 days of just constant rain, and then we can have a couple weeks off from that, and then we need 2 days of constant rain again. So I'd be curious to know what everyone has been up to recently. Noli, you want to know where the Nkuhumas, and you're saying, oh my goodness, it's been so long since we last saw them. Noli, it has been super long since we last saw them. The last I heard was they were over on Elephant Plains, which is to our west, and that there was buffalo that was also around there, so they're probably hunting those buffalo. So what we need is we need those herds of buffalo to come over to us, and the Nkuhumas to follow them, and then they can have some buffalo meals and stay with us for a while. I miss them as well. I always enjoy the Nkuhumas. very, very, very much. All right, I'm not picking up the tracks I was hoping to pick up crossing over in here. So I think some of what was happening was those cubs were playing around on the road just as the rain was lightening up. So the general direction they were going was west and slightly north. I've done slightly north now. It's possible that I missed some of them. I am chatting with all of you, but we could pick them up again. So I'm heading east now. I'm then going to get back onto the southern cut line, onto Gowrie, Maine, and start heading west again and see if I can pick up anything more on these tracks. And then if I find a really nice sequence, I will show you just exactly what I'm doing and why I say what I say, and what the difference between sort of in the rain tracks and not in the rain tracks are. Well, while I'm looking for lions, Taylor is up in the Masai Mara, and she has an actual physical lion to show you. So I think let's go look at that physical lion while I try and find some Djuma ones for you, and we'll see you all shortly.
That sounds very promising, Noelle. Good luck on your adventure, but finally we have a lion. And it is a big male lion. I don't know how we spotted him from so far away. This one just didn't look like a termite mound for a change, or a log. And I suspect it is one of the Chitwa timber boys, one of the triangle males, as we are in the heart of their territory at the moment. He looks quite lively too, head up, scanning around. Perhaps he's going to make his move towards the Angama pride, which are not too far away. However, if we want to get to him, the only road that we can use is we have to go all the way outside the Olololo gate, and that is a nightmare. So we might wait for him to come down the escarpment and head towards those lionesses, which are only a couple of 100 meters away. We pass them again, and they're still covered in the long grass, fast asleep. So Manu and I thought we would do a quick black rhino search in some areas that they like, and then just before we have to head home, stop around maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock-ish Eastern African time, and hopefully they'll be up and moving around by then. But at least we have a male lion in the area, which is quite nice. I feel like I haven't seen one for a while. Now, Tanya, you're wondering, why do male lions kill their own cubs? No, they don't typically. It's other males that come in and take over a pride and chase out the existing males that have sired all those cubs. They will then kill those youngsters. And the reason for that is they don't want to waste their energy raising someone else's offspring. They know then if they kill those cubs, those females will come into estrus a few weeks later, and they can mate with them, and then the females will bear their offspring. But it's not very often that a male lion that has mated with the females and she's had his cubs to kill them. However, with that being said, accidents do happen. Scrapping over a carcass can be quite intense, and if a young little cub gets in the way, unfortunately, they can succumb to injuries, whether it be swatting by the paw or a bite, whether it's on purpose or not, or just sort of frustration that was displaced onto that cub. That can sometimes happen as well, but typically it'll be other males, new males, that didn't raise or have anything to do with those cubs. You can see he's staring over in that distance, so I'm pretty sure he's either smelt them or he's seen those girls from afar, far away, and he'll probably make his way down there in a little while. We weren't sure if he'd eaten something or not, and then we thought we saw something moving, but it turned out to be a bird that was just fluttering around him, a very brave bird. I couldn't tell you what bird it was. It's exceptionally far away, as you can see. Now, we're not too far away from the Olololo gate, so we're going to go around the bend and try and find a black rhino, and then we'll return to our lions. Rolf is still playing the patience game, and he's sitting with his cats.
Playing the patience game. Look at this female. She's spotted some female waterbuck that have just come out of the forest. Murphy's Law behind us again. So I don't want to reposition the vehicle just yet, because I don't want to alert these waterbuck and give away her little game here. Now, she has flattened herself a little bit, and she showed a lot of interest now. So I think she's just going to watch these waterbuck. and see how it unfolds. And we're going to do the same. However, if she does get up and move, I will eventually try to reposition, because she's looking directly behind the vehicle, directly at the waterbuck, obviously, but I'm just going to wait and see how it unfolds for now before I move or do anything, because I don't want to mess up this situation for her. So we'll wait and see how this happens. And the other female behind her is also quite concentrated on the exact same animals. So we've got potential here. But you know how it sometimes can happen, sometimes not. There's the other one hiding in the grass. She's not quite as focused as this one in front, but you see she's looking over at her, so she might be playing on her lead. And she's deep enough in the grass for those waterbuck to not notice her at all. This female here is slightly more exposed, and hence why she's flattened herself a little bit more. That's all very exciting, even though nothing really seems to be happening. It's one of those that it could burst into activity within seconds, that we do need to be ready to move so that we can get a picture for you and see what happens. Now, Sanket, you're mentioning that she looks like she's in hunting mode. Well, that's how we spotted them when they first came out of the tree line. They were very much in a hunting mode, but then initially it seemed that they lost interest because there was no real target within sight. But they've been lying here, and these waterbuck have come out of the forest, and so they've showed a little bit more interest. Will they hunt? Or will they just lie there? Well, it remains to be seen, but on that picture you can see those lovely white bands below her eyes, which is one of the major reasons helping them to be able to reflect all the light into their eyes when it is completely dark. Well, we think it's completely dark, but there's always a little bit of light, and with those white bands under the eyes, that assists them in being able to pick up all the light, even when it is seemingly totally dark. But she's relaxed a little bit now, and these waterbuck have walked out into the open directly behind the vehicle now. So I wonder if she's already made her mind up that it's not going to happen. But we do need to always be ready, because we've seen how fast it happens, and I can tell you, I have even had lions using the vehicle as cover. Coast Slider, you're asking, do lions ever fall when they take off from that position? Yes, it can happen, absolutely, but the lions are, when they get totally focused like that, it seems like everything about their body knows exactly what is in front of them and the position that they're in, and they just become totally focused, and there's not really that many mistakes made, especially from experienced females like these are. You'll notice that there's not many mistakes. It's the younger individuals that make mistakes, especially the younger males, because they're a lot more gangly in their body frame, a little bit like a young teenage boy, where their body sort of grows in different proportions, and their head is a little bit big for their shoulders, and their legs a bit long for their body, and their arms almost seeming too long for their legs, and so they are a little bit ungainly, and they can make a mess of many hunts. But the females are the ones that generally pull it off much better than the males. When the males get a bit older, obviously they fill out nicely, and then they look glorious with their massive manes, but it's a lot different body shape to that of the females. They're more for power and dominance, whereas the females are pure stealth, speed, and power. She's watching those waterbuck. we're going to sit here in anticipation of these lions doing a little bit of hunting. And the later it gets, the more chance we have of witnessing a hunt and potentially a kill. But while we do that, once again, we're going to send you all the way down south to South Africa, and Scott has a lovely surprise for you.
Well, we've got incredibly lucky, and we got a radio update that somebody had found the big male leopard that was reportedly seen. We were told that he was seen on the wrong road, and we got a more correct update a little bit later on. And he's moved probably around 1 kilometer since he was seen at 2 o'clock on the main access road that leads you to the 2 camps here on Djuma. And this is the big dominant male leopard of our area. His name is Tingana, and he is a fine specimen. It looks like he's just catching his breath now. I'm hoping that he's going to get back up and on the move. I'm told he was marking his territory as he went along patrolling at around 2 p.m. and let's hope it doesn't take too long before he gets back and on the move. Oh, look on the road there. Quickly, Sense. Quickly. Now, these warthogs have no idea he's here. He also has no idea that they're there. But that could change, and he might hear the little communication grunts between the mom and those piglets, and if they come closer towards him, we could see some very interesting behavior. And isn't that fascinating how predator and prey can be so close to one another yet have no idea that either of them are nearby? And I guess that is one of the warthogs' biggest challenges, being so low to the ground. It's sometimes difficult for them to spot their prey, but in the same breath, sometimes it helps them to evade being seen. Whew. And Tom, you've just mentioned that this cat day is turning out to be really epic. It certainly sounds like it, because Ralph's lioness, even though they calmed down after showing some intent a little bit earlier, it sounds like they could well get up at any moment and continue searching for a meal. I'm not too sure what this guy's state of affairs is regarding his hunger. I haven't had a good look at his belly yet. But what goes without saying is that the big cats are highly opportunistic, and any opportunity they get, they will take, even if they are full-bellied. So the fact that those warthogs are nearby means that we could be in action shortly, and quite often those young piglets will let off little squeaks and grunts to communicate with their siblings as well as their mother, and he might well hear some of those grunts. Now, my only concern that I do need to warn you about is that we are right on our northern boundary. Oh, has he spotted something else there? He definitely is looking quite intently down the road there. Max, you'd like to know how old is Tingana at the moment? And I think he's around 10 or 11 years old. So he's by no means a youngster. I guess some may say he's kind of midway to or towards the end of his dominance. There's quite a few young males that are going to start giving him a hard time. But for now, he is definitely the king of the leopards in this area, so he's got nothing to worry about just yet. And just like us as humans, and I cannot stress this enough, you'll find some animals are still strong into their older ages and others aren't. So, you know, he's proving to be in good shape for his size, or for his age rather. And aren't we lucky to just be here? We're probably only about 10 meters away from him, and he's completely relaxed with our presence. And for an animal that can be so shy and elusive and avoid being seen by humans, we are very lucky to be in a scenario where the leopards of the Sabi Sands... Oh, there's a sneeze coming. Looks like it. Looked like he was thinking about having a sneeze there. But he's not. So now what's interesting is that the tracks that we had earlier are definitely of a female leopard from sometime in the early morning. So there's also a leopard that could pop up on the dam cam at any stage, so keep an eye out there. I was talking about the tracks and the paws of those tracks we saw earlier, and they were far too small to be those of Tingana. His would have been almost double the size of those tracks we saw. What can he hear out there? It's very thick bush, so I can't see anything, but maybe he's hearing something. He's definitely looking intently every now and then down the road. Here's his telltale tongue sticking out when he gets a bit sleepy. And it is turning out to be quite a warm afternoon. It's been cloudy and overcast, and we had a very rainy morning, as some of you may know, but the sun has started poking out about an hour ago. And usually after rain, once the sun does pop out, it can become incredibly humid and sticky. So hopefully the hot, humid weather doesn't keep him too stationary. I hope he gets up and on the move as long as he doesn't head further north out of our area of traverse, because that would be a great, great pity. I wonder where those warthogs have gone. I've got no idea. I mean, if they continued in the direction they kind of were heading, and as they crossed the road they would be heading away from him, and I'm guessing if they had have headed any closer towards him, he would have heard their communicatory grunts and snorts, because they do chit-chat with one another. So we're gonna keep things exactly as they are. We will not be going anywhere unless of course he gets up and starts moving, and then we'll get up and follow him. But for now he's looking very relaxed, so I don't know how long it will be before he takes us on a stroll. Cross fingers that it's not too long. You are going for a little stroll. You're going to be strolling around with Ralph.
Thanks, Scott. And it seems you've got a flat leopard. Well, we've got a reasonably flat couple of lions here as well. Although she seems to be half drifting off to sleep. We know how that can change, but we are just enjoying her in this beautiful golden light. And she is posing so nicely for us. And she just keeps opening her eyes, just looking for any potential there across the plains. And remember, it's always this fight of life and death. One animal's death is another animal's feast. And it's always this intricate balance that the animals need to play with. It's always exciting, can be sad, can be frustrating, but it can be very enjoyable. And so we always just continue to watch in the hope that the life that is maintained is of very good quality. And the quality of life that this female has had, I'm sure, has been very good, because she looks in prime condition. She's either had a very good mom, a very good teacher, or she's been very good at teaching herself. But with lions, very good team members, and there would have been a lot of help from her friends. Now, Mia, you're wondering where the waterbuck have gone and how many are there. Mia, there were about 4 of them, but you could see there, I think Archie's going to zoom in on them as best he can, and they did walk past us and behind us and all the way into the marsh, so they're the lucky ones today. For now, this female is still going hungry, and those waterbuck are now happily feeding in the marsh. So good on you, waterbuck. You managed to evade the lioness. But she's going to have to feed sometime, so who's going to be the unlucky customer? That's the question, because these waterbuck seem to have been too clever for her, and that's the reason why they are adults and they've lived as long as they have. It's not by chance. They've had to look out for each other and for themselves, and they've obviously also had good teachers in their parents showing them all the risks of living in the Masai Mara and being a waterbuck. You do need to be aware of what's happening, and look at those ears, always listening out. Even when their head's down, eyes on the grass while they're feeding, those ears are constantly listening out in every direction, trying to pick out if there's anything after them. There's a topi moving through in the background, also grazing. So we celebrate the life of these animals that have evaded being eaten. But back to the lion, who is also going to have to get herself some food sooner or later, because she's got hungry mouths to feed back in the tree line, those little cubs waiting for her return. So once again, that delicate balance between life and death, eh? And there we go back to the female, still sitting in the golden light, still ever watchful over the plains, looking for any weakness. And while we stay here watching her, seeing if anything happens, let's send you on down south to Noelle, who I'm sure can't wait to show you what she's found.
He's cooking it. I like the steam.
Alright, we don't have a leopard like Scott does, but we do have a leopard tortoise, and it's actually the most quickly moving leopard tortoise I've ever seen. It has managed to find a hiding place within seconds of crossing the road, and probably just going to relax there, maybe eat some of that beautiful green grass. Our lions that we were tracking sadly ended up going south into the little gallery just after you left us. Not that we saw them, but we picked up their tracks again. They were zigzagging across the road, and unfortunately it's a little bit too far south for us to see, so we have to leave them for now. But there is a possibility that maybe they come more north onto the cut line or into our area later this afternoon, so we'll double check on that. So right now I'm just triple checking for any wild dog that might come back on the property from our western boundary. Haven't picked up any tracks yet, but we're just going to carry on and have to see. So we're going to head up towards Impala Plains area, and then I don't know, we're going to have to carry on and work with what we have. It's cooled down quite a bit and it's not as humid, which is really nice. So that little leopard tortoise that we had there is a vegetarian. It's going to eat plant matter. And we... Sorry, I've just got some tracks in the road. No, it's little warthogs. To check to see if it's a male or female, you either have to see them mating, or you have to check under the carapace, and I'm not going to pick him up to check. But from the size of it, it looked like it could possibly be a small female. Then again, it could very easily be a very large male. This area that we're going into now is where we had the wild dog Mvula scenario a couple of weeks ago. No, several weeks ago now, almost 2 months ago, I think, right around in there. So we were out and about following the wild dogs. They killed an impala, and then out of nowhere, Mvula jumped out of the bushes. And for those of you that are new, Mvula is one of our territorial male leopards, similar in size to Tingana, a little bit stockier. And there was lots of chaos and interaction. It was amazing, and there was so much happening. We actually we probably needed 2 cameras here to be able to catch everything. So we do know that the wild dogs like to come past this spot when they are in the area, and it was so nice to have them yesterday morning on the Djuma dam, on the dam cam, and then also, yesterday afternoon, with our final little segment there. So I'm hoping they grace our presence again. Now, while I'm busy hunting for some wild animals to show you, let's head back up to the Masai Mara to Taylor, who has a bit of an update for everybody.
Well, we haven't quite got an animal just yet. We've got something that an animal makes. Something that we haven't seen too many of in the Mara, but we were talking about today. Spider webs. Well, we're talking about spiders, but they make the webs. Anyways, this shepherd's tree is covered in webs. It's crazy. I don't know what type of spider it is. We can definitely cancel out the bark spider because we know that they put their webs up at night and take them down at first light again. So it's not one of them. So I'm not quite sure what else it could be. There's so many spiders out here. Something that I have been seeing quite a bit of is not necessarily from the spiders, but it'll be from a caterpillar of sorts. Now, in South Africa, we get something called a guarri moth, which typically utilizes the guarri trees, the Euclea species of trees, and these caterpillars actually make a silken web all around themselves, and a group of them will feed in that web to try and protect them. That's not this, though. This is most certainly a web. You can see how sparse it is, whereas the web for those caterpillars would actually be quite tightly knit and almost no gap in between to try and keep predators out. But they've caught lots of things, including leaves and alates and I'm sure lots of other insects. Now, Toma, you said that this is a very long web. I'm wondering, I don't know if it's from the same spider. I wonder if there's a group of spiders living here. It's not quite a community nest spider either. We know that they're fairly sociable. Not fairly, they are very sociable. But they make those also, again, tight woven nests. They remind us of rain spider. Well, they remind me of rain spider nests. So I don't know what's created this. And I can't see. Has anyone seen any spiders sitting in the webs that would give us some indication? I know it would only be a silhouette though. But there's just nothing. Just lots of leaves. And there's a pity that tree is so high, otherwise I would have parked underneath it and gone to inspect. But no. I miss seeing the little spiders on bushwalk. I think I was talking about it the other day. I enjoyed sitting and watching them, and the praying mantises. They were cool to see as well. I don't see too many insects around, except at night when someone's left the light on. Then it's quite amazing, actually. But nothing. No spiders in there, I'm afraid. But blowing in the wind. You can see it's turned out to be a very, very windy day here in the Mara. Right. No black rhino either. I'm searching and searching, but I can't find one. Kim, you said that those must be the spiders' decorations that are still up. Possibly. Our Christmas decorations are actually still up. We'll have to take them down, but we'll do that after New Year's when we're back from across the other side of the river. Take our tinsel down. But we didn't have too many decorations this year. I really wonder what spider that is. I'm just trying to think what I've seen, but to be honest, I haven't really seen many spiders at all. It's sad. But I want to find another jumping spider again so we can do circus tricks with them. Because that is one of my favorite things. They're the only spider I think I will have back towards the triangle male. Scott is down in the Sabi sand. He's sitting with a leopard. I wonder if you'll see the next set of warthogs that run past.
Well, not too much has changed here. He's repositioned ever so slightly, and he did just let off a yawn about a minute ago, which is often a sign that they're thinking about getting active. Although right now when you look at him, you think he's about to actively start going into a deep, deep coma as his head slowly drops down. He's found an incredible spot there, and look at how comfortable he looks at the moment. Tingana, you're going to make all of us fall asleep if you continue like this. So my predictions were completely off. Well, they were kind of part right, part wrong. I told Senzo that, oh, we need to rush you off to Ralph, who has lioness on the hunt. Have fun.
Okay, everybody, so this female, she was watching those waterbuck, and now she's got up and she started stalking towards them. So we've got a potential hunt on the go here. The other female has also come through, and this is looking very exciting. She's now moving quite quickly because those waterbuck are heads down, they're grazing, and their backs towards her. So this is looking very promising, folks. The other female is trying to catch up with her a little bit. Welcome everybody, and you're watching Safari Live with Ralph Kirsten, and we have just been watching these females try and stalk up on these waterbuck here in the Masai Mara in Kenya. They've been taking their time and waiting for the right moment. These waterbuck have now put their heads down. They're starting to graze. So we've got a potential hunt on the go here. Now they're still biding their time. And the waterbuck's still none the ware. And there is great potential here for this female. They came out of the wooded area with great intent, and now you can see the intent here. She's making herself nice and low in the grass. And look at this. This could be unfolding right before us. Look how low she goes in the grass. And the wind is going across her. Sandy, you're wondering which pride is this? I have a feeling that it is part of the marsh breakaway pride. It's two females, and they're both lactating, so it seems that they've both got young cubs. But I've only seen two females for now, so we're not 100% sure, but it seems it might be. But we'll have to wait and see. If they do make a kill, we might see a few of the other individuals coming through, but she's still staying very low in the grass there, almost invisible. Those waterbuck are moving a little bit away from her. Now, Phil, I agree with you. Thanks for your comment. This is extremely exciting. Well, we're wondering if that female is going to get any closer. I think and Archie's just going across because I think the other female might be wanting to join her. She hasn't gotten as close as that one just yet. But we've obviously got a scene unfolding and a potential hunt on the go. But I think it all depends on how close they can get to those waterbuck before they make the final chase. She has put her head down there. Sarah, you're wondering how far are those waterbuck from the lioness? They're probably about 80 yards, if not less. And that male is now coming over towards them. I think those waterbuck are now maybe in a little bit of the marsh itself, so it might be a little bit noisy for that female once she starts walking in the water. She keeps turning her head back to the other female, who I think she wants to come and help. But the way that she went along with her stalk, with full intent, I think, of trying to take one of these waterbuck out. So we're going to sit here and see how this unfolds. The waterbuck are moving through. That female now waiting for her sidekick, who's making her way through there as well. The waterbuck's still none the ware. Martina, you're wondering how close the lioness needs to be before she pounces. Well, they generally get within about 50 yards as a minimum. They need to get quite close because their acceleration is their biggest weapon. But if the waterbuck can open up enough space between them, eventually they'll be able to outrun them. So the biggest weapon of the lion is to get in nice and close and then accelerate before the waterbuck can get up to top speed, because once the waterbuck is up at top speed, it's normally a missed hunt. So we've been watching this now for the last 2 hours. Now, Matt, you're wondering if there's any water nearby that the waterbuck could escape to. Not any substantial water. It's all just a little bit of a marshy water or boggy water underfoot that you've got there at the bottom of that grass. So, and there she's sitting down again. It's not in stalking mode anymore, but it really changes very fast. So it does not mean that this hunt is over. It just maybe means there's a slight pause in the final chase. She will wait and see. If those waterbuck don't see her, the potential is they could even come walking up towards her, which would be even better for her. You see the wind going across the grass, so it's not going in her face, but it's not at her back blowing towards the waterbuck, so they won't be able to pick up her smell just yet. And so for now, she is still invisible to those waterbuck and has every chance of catching them. But she knows, she's well experienced, she needs to get in close before she attempts to chase them down. Now, Elish, you're wondering if they're stalking the male or the female waterbuck. Well, they started out on the male. Now, they started out on the females, and that male has just wandered across. Now, it looks like that female may have an inkling that there's a lion there, because that waterbuck has pricked up its head. I think it saw a little bit of movement there. I think she is a bit worried and trying to work out if it is indeed a lion that she spotted. That lioness was using that little brush as her cover, but then the waterbuck walked a bit to the side unknowingly, but almost then broke the cover for the lion. But there is still every chance that this kill is going to go ahead. Now, Jenny, you're wondering if she spotted the lion. Why doesn't she run away very fast? Jenny, I think she saw a bit of movement, but I don't know if she realized that it's a lion. She's being very cautious and trying to see if it is indeed a lion. So maybe she's not quite sure just yet. She seems a bit nervous, but I don't know if she's actually identified it as a lion. There is the result of her maybe realizing that that is now a lion and warning her mates. You see how she pronked away a little bit there? That's a little bit of an anti-predator display, a little bit like impala do and springbok also do with their stotting and pronking. It's a little bit like, look at me, I'm very strong and fast, so don't even waste your time. But these lions are still staying down low in the grass, and I won't put it past them of still having a go. It has gone a little bit quiet though for the moment, so we will have to just wait and see. Now, Dara, you're wondering if there's any other lions out here that could be maybe circling them or going round the other side. There is every possibility that that could be happening, but we did only see these two females come out of the wooded area or the forest area next to the river, and so I believe it's only the two of them. And if I'm right, and it is part of the marsh breakaway pride, then these two females are the mommies to the lots of cubs that are around. So I'm not sure if these waterbuck actually realized completely that there's a lion, because they are walking away a little bit nonchalantly and turning their backs towards the danger, which would not be a good idea. That lioness is still concentrating, and if you didn't know she was there, she is totally invisible. She could even be stalking closer. We can't see her anymore. Joseph, you're wondering if these waterbuck have banded together to create a protective wall. Well, it wouldn't be the best wall in the world, because the lions would be able to break it. And that male maybe being a little bit protective on the outside, but that could lead to his downfall. So they're not overly cautious, and I think that they might not be 100% sure that there's actually lions here. The only thing we can do is sit and wait, but they have opened up a little bit more of a gap between themselves and the lion. So, folks, that's how we go in the bush, and that's how it is, the fine balance between life and death. Sometimes it can be just the difference between a pronk or a stork, but at the end of the day, everybody has to eat to survive. So, my name is Ralph Kirsten, and you have been watching Lions Stalking Waterbuck on Safari Live. Thanks, folks. Just so you all know, we just did a quick action broadcast there. That will be going on the Safari Live Facebook page. So if anybody ever wants to show their friends, you can refer to that if you were watching it live, and you can show your friends and send us your comments and your questions once more, even at a later date. Doesn't always need to be on the live show, but it's lovely to have you. As we go back now live, we don't know where that female has disappeared to. I can't see her, and the other one has also disappeared. So I wonder if they're sneaking up closer through the grass, very low to the ground. There's every possibility that that is what is happening. So I think we might just keep our eyes on these waterbuck, because those lions might just burst out of the grass and grab one of them, because they have absolutely disappeared. Right, folks, so what a fantastic scene that is unfolding here. We're not going to go anywhere. We're going to stay right here and see if these females come out of the grass, or if we spot them, it will be absolutely amazing. But while we do that, don't go anywhere. We're sending you on over to Scott or Noel. I can't remember, but it's one of them.
Well, some exciting stuff there with Ralph the waterbuck and the lion, and I guess, like often happens, the prey detected the predators before they even had a chance to launch their attack. Now, this male leopard certainly hasn't been launching any attacks since you've been gone. He's been snoozing, kind of putting his head up every now and then. He's had another yawn since you've been gone, and there's something that's getting his attention kind of off in the direction he's looking, and I'm not too sure what it is. Every now and then his ears prick up, so maybe he can hear some prey up ahead or something at least. But I think he's just kind of taking it easy. Who knows, he may have been making the most of what was a very cool morning, and that's when he was last seen on the move, and it was still cloudy and cool. And now that the sun's popped out, he's probably thought, well, it's time to have a rest. And I guess what makes big cats, and especially leopards, so successful is their flexibility and their ability to adapt. And it sounds like he's been doing exactly that today. Moving when it's cool, when it suits him, relaxing when it's hot, breaking the kind of rules of the textbook saying that leopards will move more at night than during the day. But that's not the case, and I can assure you from spending time here in the Sabi Sands, even on the hottest of summer days, you sometimes find leopards on the move at midday. So I'm hoping he's going to surprise us at some point, and not surprise us at least, but just get up and on the move. We've still got a lot of time before the safari comes to a close, so I'm confident that at some point before the end of the safari you'll get to see this guy strutting his stuff. Who knows, maybe if you're lucky you'll hear his deep rasping vocalization like a wood saw throwing through a thick hunk of wood. But only time will tell. Proud Cat Mama, you'd like to know when Tingana last had a kill? I'm not entirely sure when last he had a kill. I'm trying to rack my memory, but no confirmed kills that I've heard him being on for quite some time. I think the last one that I know of was actually one that he was feeding on with Hosanna. Well, not together. Hosanna was on the tree waiting patiently. So Hosanna is one of his sons who was trying to sneak a meal, but I think Dad was having none of that. And then there could well have been a case where he stole a kill from Kuchava. So